What's going on, football fans? It's your host, J.R. Clark, back again with another rendition of the Pound for Pound. This time, kind of like Toby's, it's a solo rendition. We're going to be doing something together pretty soon, but today it's just going to be me talking to you, dropping some of my opinions and my thoughts as they have been collecting, over the last few days. And my thoughts are regarding on the departure of Kyle Shanahan and the relationship he had with Matt Ryan, and now the relationship of Matt Ryan with Steve Sarkisian. So what I'm trying to paint, the picture I'm trying to paint for you is you got the 2-year sample size of Matt Ryan with Kyle Shanahan, or our offense under Kyle Shanahan. The first year, 2015, everything started out, honky-dory for the first 5 games. And then it just fell off the face of the planet. We went through a horrible stretch where we were couldn't do nothing, getting blown out. It was horrible, and that got me thinking, what was the real difference between 2015 season and 2016 season? You go from having, a crap offense to, record-setting offense, not just for the franchise, but tying a league-wide record of points scored. So let's just analyze the difference between 2015 and 2016 on the offensive side of the ball. First and foremost, in 2016, the Falcons added, Mohamed Sanu, Taylor Gabriel, and Aldrick Robinson. And they lost, Roddy White, okay? Everybody wants to chalk it up that, Roddy White was done. He was spent. He was old. And I'll give it to you. He had lost a step, sure, but could he still been a productive receiver? Yeah. Especially in the scheme that we had. People want to talk about, Mohamed Sanu really came in and took a lot of pressure off of Julio. Let me tell you something, folks. It wasn't just Sanu. It was 13 different receivers. Multiple games of, 7 to 8 different targets, receiving a catch in the game. It wasn't necessarily, Mohamed Sanu coming in and taking some of the pressure off of Julio Jones. So, that's not a correct narrative, to be saying there. More accurate is, I think, the transition that happened from 2015 to 2016 took place more with Matt Ryan than it did with anybody else on the offense. And the evidence that you have of that is, in the offseason, Matt Ryan went out to California and worked with the QB guru, Tom House, and, his associate, who I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. But he went out there and worked with them. And then when he came back from that, he took his offense down to Miami and had a passing camp. Had their own players-only mini camp. So, to me, the big difference in 2015 to 2016 was that Matt Ryan took another step in his leadership and in his own, preparation to become, an elite quarterback. He was all, from Jump Street, Matt Ryan was a good quarterback. He's now flirting on the discussion of being a great quarterback. If he gets if he gets himself a ring before his career is done, he will be in that discussion of a great quarterback. So the point I'm making is, I don't think the loss of Kyle Shanahan is going to be felt nearly as bad as some people might be portraying. Because I believe they made mention to it in an interview right around the time of the Super Bowl that came out, talking about what was the big difference between 2015 and 2016. and they were talking about how they went and had a beer together. Well, I think that beer is a nice code word of, Matt Ryan and Kyle Shanahan got together, and Matt Ryan was like, look, dude, if you'll just work with me, we can be great. Because it's been on record many places, many a times, with Kyle Shanahan's arrogance and his unwillingness to work with players. From Donovan McNabb being run out of Washington to his outright refusal at the end of the season to continue working with Johnny Manziel. Now, Manziel's own case, he's an idiot anyway. I'm not even talking about going into that. I'm just talking about, I don't know if you've ever heard of a coordinator just refusing to work with somebody and basically begging to be let out of a contract. That generally just doesn't happen. So, I think 2016 was more of a product of, Matt Ryan than it was Kyle Shanahan, is the point I'm making. I read a real good article. I believe it was the Monday Morning Quarterback, or that site put it out, talking about the shift in Matt Ryan's thinking, and the shift that all great quarterbacks have to make to take that next step to become a great quarterback. You see, so what I'm proposing here is that the step that our offense took was more a product of Kyle Shanahan, putting his, ego on the back burner just a little bit and letting Matt Ryan be more of Matt Ryan. So with that being said, if that continues to happen, I don't think our offense is going to take much of a dip, much of a downward trend. I actually think there's a good possibility that our offense may get even more efficient. May not necessarily score as many points if that's the metric you're going to use at the end of the season. It may not look as good, but they could become more efficient on third downs. His completion percentage could be better. Hell, just take the Super Bowl, for instance, as far as, needing a better example of, Kyle Shanahan's, arrogance, I guess you could say. What coordinator with that kind of a lead in the second half doesn't try to run the ball a little bit more? I'm not saying you abandon the pass game or even, but you got to kill the clock in a situation like that. And you have to, as a coordinator, you have to understand that. Now, a little bit of that blame, I'm going to go ahead and call it, goes on the, shoulders of Dan Quinn, because as the head coach, he needs to make that call as well. But, that's another topic for another day. I'm not even trying to dive into what happened at the Super Bowl. I honestly think that the relationship, and you've seen it in some quotes if you've been paying attention this off season, as we get into OTAs and as, these, secondary, or not secondary, but the other players are getting a chance to talk to the media. You're hearing Steve Sarkisian's more open to listening to the players. That doesn't say that says just as much about Shanahan as it does about Sarkisian. Because that tells me that Shanahan wasn't open to listening to his players. He was going to do it his way. It was his scheme. And, come hell or high water, he was going to do what he wanted to do. I honestly think that that's why you ended up with such a sour end to the, Roddy White's career. Because Roddy White, as we have seen, anybody who has followed Roddy White on social media knows that Roddy White doesn't keep his thoughts to himself. He's going to let you know. And even Shanahan proved it in that one game last year. I wish I could remember, in 2015 what game it actually was. But he opened the game with throwing to Roddy White 3 times straight in a row. And then basically just didn't throw to him the rest of the game. It was almost like, here's your touches, now shut up. And, that's a bad look. So, even had Shanahan not taken the 49ers job, I don't know how much longer he would have been in Atlanta, to be completely honest. Because, if you look at it as in a typical job structure, he's the boss of this one department and his employees were not happy. Eventually, unhappy employees, that rises to the top. If you're a taskmaster type boss, and you're just dogging your employees, eventually that's going to get back to upper management. And I think at the end of the 2015 season, Matt Ryan was like, they probably had a nice powwow in Dan Quinn's office. And I believe had Matt Ryan said then that he didn't want to work with Shanahan, I bet you Shanahan would have been gone at the end of 2015. But Matt Ryan being, quote unquote good company man, figured to try to give at least one more year, and see what they could do. Because I think he had that shift late in the season in his thinking. Like realizing that he could do some stuff better in the off season to get better and to be better. Because you also got to take into account that was the first time in Matt Ryan's NFL career he had been asked to play in a different style offense. When he came into the league, you had Mike Mularkey, which, as his offensive coordinator, and they were, a run-heavy base team predicated a lot off a play-action pass. And then when Dirk Cutter came in, he kept the same, verbiage and the same style of offense the first few years he was there, and he slowly was starting to transition to a more 4 verticals type set towards the end of his tenure with the Falcons. It wasn't a wholesale change. It was a gradual change. So Matt Ryan, for the first time, had to deal with the wholesale change. Going from the type of offense that he'd been playing in, with the verbiage and the concepts and all the stuff that he'd been used to a wholesale different type of offense with, more of a 2 tight end sets, the outside zone scheme and, stuff of that nature, the rollouts. It took him, I think at the end of the 2015 season, he was like, oh man, I need to work on some stuff. So I guess in that aspect, I thank Kyle Shanahan for opening Ryan's eyes that he needed to work on some stuff. Like, if this is the type of system you want me in, or that we're going to run, then I need to get better at certain things. So, with that, all that being wrapped up, it kind of brings me to Steve Sarkisian. Sarkisian comes in, and, Sarkisian, now, he's the one who necessarily is going to have to adapt to what we have here and the type of system that we have in place already. With the outside zone runs, packaged up with the backside rollouts and the little leaking guys out and stuff like that. From the things I've read from the time Sarkisian got here, he's been locked in a basement with all the game film, and that game film's probably got more stuff than we have access to as fans. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if they had all the audio recordings of Shanahan calling the plays to Matt Ryan. So if he has access to a lot more than we have access to, obviously, he's now, sinking himself into, learning our system, learning our verbiage, things like that, learning what Matt Ryan is comfortable with and what Matt Ryan wants to do and the plays that he likes. And if he's more amenable to being flexible, I can definitely see, this offense getting better. In the times that I've spent watching some Steve Sarkisian film from his days at Washington and his days at USC, that's a style that I think meshes well with what Matt Ryan is capable of and comfortable with. If you'll notice, in 2016, the Falcons ran a lot more no-huddle type stuff. A lot more little, not necessarily up-tempo, but sped up the tempo in the course of a game. Got in and out in it, in the up-tempo, out of the up-tempo, kind of used it in the flow of the game. And that's something that Matt Ryan has done quite a bit throughout his career. So that's something he's super comfortable with. By going to no huddle, it gives him more time, as they're going from play to play, to walking up and reading the defense as they're, going to get set. He has more time to eye what type of player, what kind of set that the defense is out there in. Offenses got keys just like defenses got keys. Oh, are they in a dime package? Oh, okay, well then that means this part of the field might be open. Or are they in a nickel? Or are they in base? It gives him more time to, scan the field. And if Sarkisian is as open as it sounds like he is, I feel like there's a chance that, this offense can even be even more efficient than we were last year. Sarkisian this past week had a good quote came out about him, or that he said he wasn't brought in to maintain this offense. He was brought in to improve this offense. And that's a great attitude to have. He's not trying to, completely remake the wheel. He's just trying to make the wheel better. And I know you're probably thinking, JR, how can you make the wheel better? Well, at one point in time, we had wooden spoke wheels with wooden rims. Now you got composite steel alloy rims with rubber tires, and even tires that don't run flat. Like you can run over a nail and keep driving. So yes, you can improve the wheel, is what I'm trying to say. So just because something appears to be amazing and appears to be perfect doesn't mean it is. There are very few things on the face of this planet that are perfect. So I guess in closing, what I'm trying to tell you fans, or remind you fans, is that the players are still here from the amazing offense that we had in 2016. The only guy we lost was Aldrick Robinson. And when faced with the decision to sign Taylor Gabriel or Aldrick Robinson, they tendered, Gabriel and re-signed him. So that tells you what they think. They think that he was a bigger part of this offense than Aldrick Robinson. And they're right. So I guess what I'm trying to say is don't worry. I don't think that this offense is going to take a step back, because I honestly don't think the explosiveness and awesomeness was solely predicated on Kyle Shanahan, because it was still our guys out in the field who had to execute the plays. And when Shanahan left the 49ers, it's not like he took all those plays with him and said, y'all can't use these no more. So the guys, they're professionals. They know what they're doing. They know how to run the routes. The only unknown is how is the game going to be called? What is the flow of the game from Shanahan to Sarkisian? That's the only unknown. And we won't know that until we get into the season. So, as always, fans, keep your eyes up, rise up, and enjoy your day.